I wanted to put together a video to introduce you to the new course website. Um, if you go into your Canvas and you select this course, the homepage that it takes you to should be this table of contents here. Um, so far, it only has the material that we've already covered in the class so far. It, it's going to be a living document that I continue to add to for the rest of the semester. My goal was to create something that's a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more concise than the Stephen Late's book, or quite frankly, than my lectures, to give you all the information that you need to solve the types of problems and exercises that we're doing in class. In a format that you can navigate pretty easily. So it's broken up into a few different chapters. The first one is counterpoint, which offers you an introduction to counterpoint, talks about different types of motion: contrary motion, parallel motion, similar motion, oblique motion. And then each of these little pages has hyperlinks in them, so you can go directly to the guidelines for writing melody. Um, you can move into discussions of first species counterpoint that gives you the rules and additional guidelines. Second species counterpoint and the rules for that. And then in here as well, there are links to additional information. For example, intervals. I realized in my conversations with a number of you that figuring out intervals, figuring out what are your perfect, imperfect consonances, your dissonances, figuring out the qualities of intervals can be a challenging thing to work through, whether you're building triads or doing your counterpoint exercises. So on this page, I provided some of the tools that we've used in class, this pitch wheel that allows you to kind of count intervals between different pitches, and the piano keyboard, which as a piano player myself, I've always found to be a useful tool in terms of figuring out how far pitches are from each other. Also, there's this chart that tells you the name of the interval, the abbreviation, how many half steps it is, and an example starting from C and going up that harmonic interval to another pitch. And then a brief introduction to consonants and dissonance. The website is not intended to be incredibly thorough in terms of, I mean, there's so much that could be said about consonance and dissonance and how that works in our ears, in the history of music, etc. My goal in this website is to just give you the information you need to solve the problems that you're dealing with. So you can always go back to the home button to get back to the table of contents. There's discussions of triads, the root, the third, the fifth, discussions of inversions, discussions of qualities first, and the interval content of major, minor, diminished, and augmented triads. There's some discussion of inversions, both of triads and seventh chords, and also the figured bass notation for those. Again, there's more detail in the figured bass notation. When we initially talked about it in class, I don't go that much into the history or the ways that figured bass was read in the Baroque. I'm more interested in giving you the information that you need for the types of analysis that we're doing this semester. There's some discussion of triads in the key. um, in both major and minor. And there's also some discussion of seventh chords in the key. In that section, I really only focus on the seventh chords that we'll actually see, not all the ones that are hypothetically possible. So in the music that we're listening to and looking at in class, we're never going to deal with a piece that has a seventh on the tonic chord. So I don't even bring that up here. We're going to have a lot of 5/7s. We're going to have some 2/7s, some 6/7s, some 7/7s, the 4/7 in minor. But I'm not interested in talking about things that we're not going to be using. There's also some discussion of the harmonic minor in these conversations about triads and seventh chords in the key, and the fact that we raise the leading tone in the 5 chord, we raise the leading tone in the 7 chord, because they can both function as dominants. What else do we have here? A little discussion of analysis, an introduction to Roman numerals, an introduction to non-chord tones, the passing tone, the neighbor tone, the incomplete neighbor, and the double neighbor, and showing you how you would notate those when analyzing non-chord tones in a passage. And then a brief conversation about structural melody, focusing primarily on like what it is that we're looking for, which is just to find underlying structural or skeletal structures in a melodic line, to find out the things that are sort of happening beneath the surface, the hierarchically important pitches. And the ways that those might be presenting you with scalar motion, with some sort of arch motion of stepwise motion going up and down, or gap filling, which is when a leap or a larger interval is filled in with scalar motion. I show you the notation system that Stephen Lates provides, but again, it's a tool to identify what's happening in the melody, not necessarily an end in itself. And then finally, there's a section on tonal function that introduces the ideas of tonic, dominant, and predominant, and then introduces cadences, what they are, and the half cadence, authentic cadence, and deceptive cadence, and the difference between a perfect authentic cadence and an imperfect authentic cadence, and finally the voice leading for cadences. Again, trying to be really pragmatic with it, to identify where the voices need to move, specifically in a 5/7 chord, root position 5/7 chord, moving to a root position 1 chord. You're gonna find yourself either with parallel motion or incomplete chords. The ideal solution is generally to make the 5/7 chord incomplete, to drop the fifth of the chord and double the root of the chord. So you have 2 scale degree 5s, then one of them can be maintained as a common tone when you move to the tonic. There's additional discussion of writing in 4 voices in the section on counterpoint, since it is a form of counterpoint. And so along with the rules for first species and the rules for second species, there's this page in here that talks briefly about keyboard style versus chorale style, the tessitura of the different voices, and then gets into the rules and a few guidelines for writing good counterpoint in 4 voices. So again, my hope with all of this is that it takes the information that we've been working with already in class, sort of pares it down to the essentials, to the essential pieces of information that you need to do the types of assignments that we'll be doing not only on the midterm but also in the rest of the class, um, and presents it in a pretty user-friendly, easy to navigate format. Like I said at the beginning of this little video, it is a work in progress. Uh, there are likely to be bugs and bad links and that sort of thing. I've put it together rather quickly over the last week, and I will continue to work on it for the rest of the semester, not only adding in new sections as we take on new material, but also beefing up the sections that are already there. So I would love your input if there are pieces of information that you feel like would be useful to have in this website. Maybe there are music fundamentals questions that keep popping up for you, whether that's, the keys or the different types of minor scale, or the, things that we haven't really discussed much in depth in this class because I've been operating under the assumption that much of that was covered in Music Theory 1. But if it would be helpful to include sections on some of those things in this website for your navigation purposes, we can keep building it. It's our website, so it should serve the folks in this class and what your needs are. And similarly, if there's anything that is unclear or where you would like additional information in any of these pages, let me know, and we can keep working on this and building this as a resource. We might be doing the rest of the class online for the rest of the semester, and so building a nice, useful resource that allows you to complete assignments, to solve problems, to analyze pieces of music, and to write in 4 voices. The stronger we can make this, the more useful it can be to you. So I hope that this introduction is helpful, and I look forward to our next meeting in virtual space. All right, thanks.